Good. Everything's good. Here undefeated as we speak tonight. So we're here just week in, week out, just trying to do our thing.
True that, true that, true that. And beside him, we got the silky smooth, big time. What's going on, big time?
Excitement is in the air. Big times in the house. I don't have to say who I represent. It's so obvious. I really don't have nothing to say. I'll just say, hey, another week, another beat down.
Facts are facts, right? And then below him and to my side, my fellow Eagles guy, Sam Shady. Sam, what's going on, man?
Another great night. We got a 2-0 Eagles team headed for hopefully 3-0 after this weekend.
Yep. And unable to make it with us tonight would be our Giants representative, but we're gonna shout him out, my man Wise. And as of today, because I'm a little petty, the only team that's not undefeated. Just wanna, we gotta put the facts out there. So, guys, I wanted to add a bonus thing that I thought of after we got everything set up. Simple question. I'm sure everybody will be able to answer this with no problem. Do you guys still think, with the way that the Giants have performed this year, that we're still the best division in the NFL? Or are we being held back a little bit? Couch, we'll go with you first.
I think we are. I think we just look at it from the standpoint of even though the Giants in these three games, yeah, obviously you think about the week one loss to Dallas, the comeback against Arizona, which I think in essence kind of saved their season, and then we kind of knew what we expected on Thursday night. I think they have an opportunity to potentially turn this thing around, but this division will always, I think, not going field in the future, but I think this year you will have three teams in the playoffs. So, and it's one of those where the Giants, even though they're 1-2 on the season, they still got a legitimate shot, and plus they got they're still a divisional opponent. So in those games are always a crapshoot. So we never know. This team can get hot at the right time to get hot in late October, early November, and make a run. So this team has this is the best division in football, hands down, from top to bottom.
Fair enough, fair enough. Sam, what about you?
Well, yeah, I think we are being held back a little bit by the Giants and their play currently. I think they'll get it under control in a couple weeks. I know they're lacking some talent right now, but Dable, I have a lot of belief in what he does. I think he'll figure it out, as time goes on and figure out how to work his way around the fact that they've got that lack of talent. But ultimately, I still think we're the best division in football, and it's thanks to the 2-0 Commanders, the 2-0 Cowboys, and the 2-0 Eagles currently. So looking forward to this weekend when we all remain undefeated.
I like it, I like it. Big time.
I'll just take a different take just because everybody else has said. I'm gonna say it's too early to tell. Because you know, once we start beating up on each other, that's gonna open things up a little bit, and we'll see. And then when we start talking about, I believe our division is playing the AFC East, where and all the other, I don't know everybody's schedule, but we talk, schedule is going to be kind of tough. But as of right now, I guess that's what you're saying. Cool. Kind of hard to argue three teams that are 2-0 in the division. I don't think nobody else has that. So, and even with the Giants, I don't want people to be kind of misled. The way we beat up the Giants, I knew they were going to come back and win. And just to show you, 0 points against us. Then all of a sudden, without Saquon, they put up 31. I mean, come on now. I mean, that's a tremendous difference. But as of right now, we are the best right now.
Yeah, I mean, you guys have pretty much said it. Just the question was actually posed to me by someone outside of the division, so I figured I'd bring it to my guys here, and we, just discuss it real quick. For me, I think the Giants do have a win, right? So that's the thing. They do
Yeah.
have a win, and then one of their losses is, of course, against the Cowboys, who's another divisional team. So you can't both be undefeated if you played each other week one. So I don't have a problem with the two losses that the Giants have. We said all along that we felt like the three best teams, this is what most people have said, in the NFC are the Eagles, the 49ers, and the Cowboys, whatever order you want to put them in. That's, you can do what you want to do, just stating what most people have said. So if you've played two of those teams in the first 3 weeks and you've lost both of those games, but you won the other game that you should win, I mean, I'm not going to really knock them. I will say, yeah, a little bit of I'd say a tad bit of I guess the word I want to use is a fall off for them, but more games for them to play. They're going to have more winnable games to play. They're going to have some games that's going to be hard. We're not going to sit up here and be like, oh, we're 15-0, we're 10-0, right? But I do believe that based on what we did last year and what we've done so far this year, we're seeing a pattern form. And like big time just said, we're all sitting up here 2-0, 3 of the 4 teams. So I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. But like you said, how we perform against the AFC East, the other teams that we have to play based on where we finished last year, where they finished, that's going to tell a big part of the story. And then of course how we do against each other. But I'd have to agree with all three of you gentlemen and say as of now, we are that division. So
Can I throw this in, cool, just to add to that?
yeah, that
Most teams after I guess the two games, especially when you're talking about the Cowboys and the 49ers, the way they look so far, if those were two of your first 3 games, you're gonna lose 2 of those. I mean, come on now.
yeah.
I mean, the 49ers are strong. So far, the Cowboys are strong. Most teams would lose those first 2 out of 3 games. So I based off what I say from the Cowboys and them, really can't judge the Giants quite yet.
Agreed. Agreed. Definitely agree with that. All right. So we are going to, of course, review our week 2 games. And for this, we'll start with big time.
Uh,
So big time. The floor is yours. Please give us a your thoughts synopsis on your week 2 win against the Jets.
when we played the Giants, the first thing everybody said, there were people that picked the Giants to beat the Cowboys.
There
They
were.
were a good team. They were a playoff team. They were all this, and then we destroyed them. Then the narrative was they're not a good team at all. They're horrible. They're this, they're that. Only because we destroyed them. That's the same thing I heard against the Jets. The Jets had a historic defense, supposedly. Supposed to be, ready to go and all that kind of stuff. They got the great coach. They got Sauce. They got all these. They got C.J. Mosley. They got all these folks. Then they played the Cowboys. Then as soon as the game was over with, they say the Jets not a good team. And that's something. I mean, good Lord. I mean, it's the narrative changed so quick. Once we beat up on somebody, now they're not a good team. So basically, the game, we knew that Zach Wilson was not ready. We knew that, and they took advantage of him. Now, I think they just made a major mistake by not doing what everybody thought they should be doing. They did not run the ball. It wasn't because we were shutting them down. Like they just didn't run it. They didn't give really Zach really a chance. And if you're gonna pass the ball against us, you already know you're in trouble. So that we don't have nothing to do with that. They did get down a little early in the game, and I guess in some shape or form, we took them out of their game plan by the scoreboard. And you had to throw the ball, but you're not gonna beat the Cowboys throwing the ball nonstop. You're gonna pay a price. I don't care who you are, what team it is. If you line it up and shotgun, you're going down. So the Jets really didn't do, and I still have the same question mark that I had at the beginning of the game last week was, how good is my run defense? I still don't know because it just didn't try to exploit it. So I don't know. And I know we're going to talk about the obvious injury that happened, but the defense did what the defense did, what they've been doing all year, shutting people down, destroying them. Offensively, more touchdowns. Dak had, oh my God, Dak threw 2 touchdowns with no interceptions. Didn't hear nothing this week against the Giants. They said he didn't throw a touchdown. He ain't seeing the field well. Now nobody ain't talking about Dak now. Ain't that something? Soon as we beat people, they ain't good no more. Before the kickoff, though, they good. That's all I got to say. It's amazing to me, but I digress.
Well, big time, I want to say real quick about your game. I think, and I would agree with you, I think a lot of people have done that. And my thing with it is, if we're being 100% honest, you play who's in front of you, and that's any team in the NFL. You didn't go out and say, hey, I want to play the Giants week 1. I want to play the Jets week 2. I want to play the Cardinals week 3. You didn't go out and make that schedule. That schedule was made autonomously by the NFL. No team has any say in when you play whoever, just who you're playing. So to have people come for any team, and hey, no, Philadelphia's in the same boat. To come to any team and say, hey, oh, you're only 2-0 because you played this team, because you played that team. You know, before the season started, the Vikings were going to be this juggernaut, and they didn't need Dalvin Cook, because Madison was going to step in and take care of things. And you still had Kirk Cousins, and you had Addison and Jake Jettas and TJ Hawkinson and blah, blah, blah. So even if their defense is going to give up points, they have so many weapons, they're going to outscore you. That sounds great on paper, but then you have to go out and play games. So, for your game as well as, everyone else's, my thing is kudos for taking the team that's in front of you and handling your business. Some look better, some didn't look as good, but the 2-0 is still the 2-0. You win by 45 points, 50 points, or 2 points, you still win the game. So let me hop over to the comments here. We'll go over some of the early comments that we've gotten. All right, so we had Further AM hopped in and said, what's good, fellas? What's good, man? Thanks for watching. We had Tavis let Sam know his mic was a little low. Then looks like we got that straightened out. Then we had Chris hop in with a comment, Giants related. He says, should the Giants be looking at rookie QBs next year? The Giants should have been looking at rookie QBs this year, Chris. For my answer, whatever you guys have to say, but that's my answer.
Wow. They're stuck, so you can forget that. They're stuck.
They are, but they should have been. Yeah, they signed him. Chris says Sauce got exposed. So I'll say this in regards to that. I knew someone would bring it up. That's why I didn't even mention it earlier. To me, it's less of Sauce got exposed than Sauce was misused. Sauce was not allowed to go out and cover CeeDee Lamb and say, hey, CeeDee Lamb is yours, go get it. They did this weird thing where they had the other guy covering most of the time. So I wouldn't really say Sauce got exposed. Now, the defensive coordinator got exposed, but I wouldn't say Sauce did. Just,
but to defend Sauce, if you look at the stats, he's always lined up, excuse me, on his side. He rarely jumps in the slot. I think it was less than 10% last year, the whole year. So he's pretty much a one side type guy. He doesn't travel. And the Cowboys took advantage of that by obviously just moving CeeDee around, put him in the slot. I mean, that's just they figured he wasn't gonna move, and so CeeDee was rarely over him. Let's just put it that way.
Right. And then Williams Hugo says, yo, what's up, NFC East? What's up, Williams? And then Tavis says, they say we ain't good when we lose.
That's Cowboy fan now.
Hey man, they say a lot of teams ain't good when they lose. If you're not beating the Chiefs, you're not good when you win. So what are you supposed to do? You just go out and play the games and try to get where you want to be at the end of the season. That's all you got to worry about. It's crazy, but I agree 100%, Tavis. And like I say, man, I've been one of the people that say I'm waiting for Dak to go out and have some really good games. He went out and had one. I hope he keeps it up because, you know, let's be real. Eagles fans and Cowboys fans, we don't love each other. Like I respect Doug. Doug's my guy. But when Sunday comes, piss on him and his team. After the game, we good again. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, when I see a guy out doing the work, putting in the work, becoming better, even kill, not getting into things off the field, all the things that are important, and then coming to the field and having a good game, I'm going to give him some props for that because that's what you're supposed to do. Doesn't matter who it is, that's what you're supposed to do. Dak had a good game, I'm going to give it to him. Dak has a bad game, I'm going to say, hey, Dak didn't have a good game. But you can't just say, oh, Dak didn't have a good game, and then when he didn't have a good game, and then when he has a good game, you act like he didn't.
Or you got a mute button on your mouth.
Right. Because a lot of people, you haven't heard anything, if something happened bad with the Cowboys, how about them boys, all these people coming out of the works? Like,
I ain't heard nothing from them all year, man.
Exactly.
I thought I'm looking for an APB report. I'm sending out a missing person report for some of these folks. I think they deleted their Facebook accounts. I don't know where they at. Good Lord. Where y'all at?
It's funny, man, because we say like when the Cowboys do well, that there's a lot of fans that come out of the woodworks, which can be true because everybody has fair weather fans, right? Every team has fair weather fans, but there's a lot of haters that are doing the same thing. And we're going to talk about something. It's not related to the NFL. We're going to talk about it later on the show because I feel like we need to talk about it. So a little preview there. So we're going to hop over to our next review that we're going to discuss. Unless anyone else had any thoughts on the Cowboys. Couch, Sam, any thoughts on the Cowboys game? Good. Okay. All right. So we'll hop over to the Commanders and the Broncos. So, Couch Coach, take it away. Talk to us about this comeback victory that your boys had on Sunday.
Man, I'm really impressed by this team's effort. Obviously, this is our second year doing this, and I'll guarantee you, even if we were ever down 21-3 in the previous administrations, I'd be like, we lost the football game. And the fact that we was able to persevere, we got the turnovers that we needed. Obviously, Russell Wilson with a fumble, then Emmanuel Forbes come off a situation where he was burnt on one of the plays and then get an interception on the in the second half. Kudos to him, Sam Howell. He was poised. They made adjustments. Shout out to Eric Bieniemy, made an adjustment. You started seeing Brian Robinson doing his thing, open up their run game. Sam did a great job as far as throwing it downfield. Those screens worked to perfection. It's just, I'm extremely, extremely proud of this football team because it was to be down by 18 on the road like that. To me, that showed me guts. That showed me that this team will face adversity and they'll fight to the very end. I'm extremely proud, but the moment that really killed me, cool. I know I was gonna make it. That final drive, Russell Wilson. I still think about it. I still think to myself, this man had 48 seconds and 0 timeouts and executed a 7-play drive that led to a touchdown. And I mean, despite all that, we did persevere with the win. But that just told you, hey, this team got to fight. So it's one of those where it's definitely a good confidence booster going into the next 14 games we got left essentially after tomorrow. So I'm really confident that this team showed some heart, persevered, they made adjustments as if you followed us throughout the years, we never make adjustments, especially on the offensive end, and hell, sometimes not even on the defensive end. So I can feel in there something different about this team, and I'm loving it.
Any thoughts, guys?
I definitely have some thoughts on this game. Obviously, I'm a Denver native, so I was watching this game pretty closely. Wow. I was not convinced coming into this season that Washington would have anything at quarterback to worry about. And coming out of this game, they have a franchise quarterback. Zero doubt in my mind at this point. Sam Howell played amazing. He deserves his flowers for what he was able to do over the past 2 weeks. In 70 passing attempts over the first 2 weeks, This guy who's only started 3 games has thrown 2 passes worthy of being considered turnovers. So, I mean, that's unreal for a quarterback that young. And I mean, this guy came out of this game with an adjusted completion rate of nearly 90%. I mean, that is insane. I know they weren't necessarily pushing the ball downfield every play, but he definitely made a believer out of me in this game. And I think Couch Coach has a lot of happy days ahead of him with Sam Howell at quarterback now.
Yep. I told him, hey, I told him, and everybody's like, I don't know. I told him, ain't cool. I always talk about because he used to be in your backyard, so they came to fruition. So yeah.
Well, I've said to you before, and I've said on several shows, I think Sam Howell is going to be the guy, and then he's got the right guy to help him develop in Eric Bieniemy. And I think Big Time has something to say, but I just want to say one quick thing. Kansas City without Eric Bieniemy, it's only been 2 games, but this team does not look like the same team as last year. But Eric Bieniemy didn't do nothing on the team, right? He didn't call plays and he helped nobody do nothing. According to LaShawn McCoy, he didn't even need to be there. Doesn't seem like that's factual information so far. We can look at it through the season, but in a small sample size, they're looking a little sus, as our younger generation say, without Eric Bieniemy over there at Kansas City. It's all yours, Big Time.
Mine's simple. Everything that Couch and Sam said is true. But one thing that they did not say is that Chase Young is back.
Yeah.
And I think I said it last week on the show that if that front 4 get back together, it's going to cause problems. There's no other way around it. And Young look like Young. And if he looks like himself, then he's a big problem along with all the rest of them that's down there, and Sweat and Allen and I mean, my goodness, these guys can wreck a football game. Now, they didn't quite do it the way that but again, that was Young's first game back. Come on now. I mean, can you imagine what these guys gonna look like maybe about another 6 weeks or so if they can, if they can stay healthy, of course. They're gonna be a problem. And they got another name that you guys didn't say is, and the reason why I know because I was shocked to look down at my fantasy team, and that's Mr. Robinson coming out that backfield, who looks like he did last year, where he's consistently every game at least above 80 yards, and he's a bell cow, and I mean they have what it they got pieces. You ain't heard Terry Mack name really a whole lot this year. You really just hearing, and that's coming. He coming. So
yeah, he scored in that game as well too. Yeah,
yeah. So these guys, man, they're going to be a problem. That front 4, man. Listen, I'm serious. I've seen teams with a defensive line that has that type of talent and that type of domination. I've seen them win Super Bowls. Now, I sure ain't saying Washington about to win the Super Bowl. I'm just saying I've seen it happen before. They're going to be better than what a lot of people thinking they're going to be. That's all I got to say.
I do want to say there's one person, and Couch can verify for me on this, that did say that they felt like the Commanders was going to be a wild card team and make the playoffs this year, because I realized all they needed was that quarterback. They had the weapons. Defense has always been, pretty good the last few years, right? So you add a guy, he's still got to learn. I'm not saying he's in the Hall of Fame right now after a couple of games, but you can see the talent there. You can see he has someone that knows how to do one thing I've always said that you need to be successful, and that's you take a quarterback and you say, I'm going to build a system around the quarterback. You don't take a system and then just throw a quarterback in it. You actually build the system and you mold and shape that system to what that quarterback's strengths are while you develop the weaknesses. And that's what the Commanders have done so far. And that's why they're sitting at 2-0 along with the defense, because he's not making mistakes. He's not holding the ball and taking sacks. He's not throwing interceptions. He's not missing plays. He's just taking what's there. And that's what you want.
And his mental makeup. And that's one thing. And, we talked about this last year where the previous quarterback, I guarantee the Arizona game, he would have just slammed the tablet and went off.
or his helmet.
Well, he had that too, and I think he broke a tablet when we played y'all big time. I think he did. He broke a tablet, but that to show you he was rattled. Now, like I said, you gotta get like Sam Howell, who's gonna take those hits and take everything, and he gonna just persevere. He gonna bounce back, and I think that's too. We talk about as far as the physical, but it's a mental aspect too, and that's what we said. The previous quarterback, physical, but the mental was the issue, and you got a nice mixture of both. In this case, we got good mental makeup and good physical abilities at the quarterback position.
I'm not starting on the former quarterback again. All I'm gonna say is
Yeah.
Shea Butter Sherman soft, and I'm gonna leave it at that mentally.
Yep. Because we didn't say a name.
Yeah, we ain't gonna say his name. We're not gonna give the man his name being mentioned here. So next we have the Giants versus the Cardinals game. Obviously, the Giants wasn't able to be on the night, so I'll just open the floor if anybody wants to just talk about anything they saw or watching that game, watching the replays. Feel free to do so.
I'll just start off because mine is simple. Like, if you get beat 40-0, like they did against us, and to come back on the road and put up 31 points, you listen to your coach this week. I don't care if it was against the Cardinals. If at the end of the week after we beat them, a lot of folks were saying the Giants are the worst team in football, and I'm like, dude, come on, man. They just ran up on a better team. That's just the bottom line. But they're going to beat the Cardinals. I picked them to beat the Cardinals from last week like that. But to do it on the road and to lose Saquon and still win, that was pretty good. And despite Darren Waller all of a sudden getting chicken arms and not catching the football, they found a way to win. And that was big for them, considering they were so low after week 1 to go on the road again. To go on the road for the first time and win there. That was big for them. We knew they weren't going to beat the 49ers, but we knew that wasn't, especially with Saquon gone. Yeah. Knew that wasn't going to happen. But to go on the road and win, they played, real tough opening schedule. Things will get just a little bit better for them. And I wouldn't be surprised if they start pulling off a couple wins. I mean, they can do that.
Yeah. I think in my personal opinion, it saved their season. I mean, because you think to yourself, obviously, you lose in prime time, and then you go on a pretty much essentially a 2-game road trip where you're playing, road games in the first 4 or 5, what have you. But definitely saved their season, in my personal opinion, because you didn't want to go 0-3 at this point. So it saved their season, in my personal opinion.
My big thing about this game is what's going on with this Giants defensive line. We all know they have a ton of talent, but not a single sack at all against Arizona. I mean, if you're not producing pressure against their offensive line, what are you going to do against Dallas and Washington and Philadelphia, where we actually invested in our offensive line on a year-in, year-out basis, and we're not, trotting out backups? Because essentially Arizona, we all know, they're more or less kind of throwing in the towel for this season so far. So, that's why we saw a bunch of their guys traded away this offseason, and you're struggling to beat them. Like, that makes me question Daniel Jones overall, and really the Giants organization as a whole, quite honestly, right now.
Yeah. The Giants are going to be an interesting thing to see all year, right? For me, they're going to be a year-long work in progress. You've got a lot of young guys or guys that are from other teams that you're expecting to come in, especially on the offensive side of the ball, and make an impact. Right? You got a young receiver, Jalen Hyatt, not giving you a lot yet, but early in the season, he's a rookie, not getting the targets he probably wants to have at this point, but he hasn't probably shown enough to get those targets, right? So kind of, both sides of the coin. But I think we're going to see a little bit of a better team from them, in the coming weeks. But I think for the week 2 game, Big Tom said it perfectly. They needed to have a fire lit under them. And if losing 40-0 doesn't light a fire under you, then you're hopeless. Definitely agree with Couch Coach. It was a must win because of who you were playing. and the fact that you just got blown out last week. Again, I'm not big on style point wins. If you get it, cool. But the fact of the matter is, they, like you said, 31 points was put up. They were able to come back and win the game. All that matters is that you have at least one more point than the other team when the game is over, and they were able to accomplish that. So, shout out to them for that, from last week. All right, guys. So we'll transition over, and we'll just talk about, injury updates for our specific teams. So, Sam, would you like to start this one off? Updates for the Philadelphia Eagles in regards to injuries.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. This was not a good week for us injury-wise. We've had a lot of guys limited in practice. It's been quite concerning that we're already this banged up so early in the season. I mean, no matter where you're looking position-wise, it seems like there's guys who are missing time, whether it was James Bradbury, Devonta Smith, Reed Blankenship, Josh Sweat, Kenneth Gainwell, Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis. I mean, Zach Cunningham. These are key players too, so it's concerning to see that they were missing time this week. Ultimately, we had a long stretch to get some of these guys healthy with us playing on Monday. So hopefully a lot of these guys are ready to go, but it's going to be interesting to watch and see if they're all 100% and can truly give us what they normally would.
Yeah, I'll tag on to that with Sam and just say Quez Watkins won't be playing. Neither will Boston Scott or Terrell Edmonds. Everyone else that was injured should be back in the game, and that's very important for us that Reed Blankenship is back, because without Edmonds, we definitely needed him to play. So feel good about that. I guess the biggest concern is going to be nickel corner, which right now we have Mario Goodrich in that position. He is the guy that was the backup, for Avonte Maddox, who of course is out for the year. I would like to see Sidney Brown maybe get a shot to play some in nickel corner, because he actually was a nickel corner in college. So maybe that's something that can, help out versatility wise. I think when you look at guys like Ringo, Joby, Ricks, Joby could go back to being a nickel corner and maybe take some reps there, as he did play that last year for us. But I think you look at those guys and they've spent at least this off season, and working up this year to this far, playing on the outside as backup. So to kind of ask them to then go play on the inside, which is a completely different technique, Joby would be the only guy that I would say, okay, maybe we do that with, right? Ricks and Ringo, they didn't do that in college. The rookies, they're just coming in, so I would rather keep them where they're at. But we'll see how it ends up playing out. Maybe we bring somebody else in, maybe we elevate someone, but definitely I'm still concerned about safety, because you only have a 3-man rotation at safety now. If Blankenship can't go 100%, you're asking Sidney Brown and Justin Evans to play the full game, at safety. That's a little bit of a concern. And, of course, the middle linebacker, Nicholas Morrow, goes down. Then you're going to have to put Kristen Ellis back there, because Zach Cunningham's going to have to play on the other side, the wide linebacker. So some concerns in those areas, right? But they're not huge at this point. But depth is very important. And also a move that I am not a big fan of, Britton Covey was elevated to the active roster with the Quez Watkins injury. I think you could have went with Joseph Nada. You could have went with Greg Ward if you wanted to go receiver. Those would have been much better names that I would have been more comfortable with actually being on the active roster. But I don't make those decisions. But, those things can be concerns when you're in game situations. And Couch Coach, did you have any injuries on your team, sir?
Yes, I do. So obviously, Logan Thomas is out, obviously with a concussion. Obviously, with the hit with last week with Kareem Jackson, who should be suspended, but that's the end of the deal. He's our only one that's out. So Cam Curl and Curtis Samuel were cleared, and there'll be a full go tomorrow. So the only one we have is Logan Thomas that's out with a concussion.
All right, Big Tom, what about you, sir?
Well, everybody knows what the biggest one was, without a doubt. Trayvon Diggs is out for the season with a torn ACL. And considering what he means to our team and what he is, that's a big, huge loss. There was a report that came out today that, surprise, Tyron Smith is on the injury report. Don't know if he's going to play or not. Tyler Biadasz, who had a somewhat of a hamstring that was earlier in this week, look like all systems say that he's a go for tomorrow. But obviously, the one that, as I said before, Trayvon being out, it changes things. We're still, we have depth without a doubt. Deron Bland will probably take a lot of those snaps, but even beyond him, we have depth there. So of course, nobody is Trayvon Diggs. We all know that. We're talking about an all pro. You don't find all pros on trees. He's an all pro for a reason. So it is what it is. However, there is good news. Looks like Donovan Wilson is coming back this week. Jordan Lewis, who played about 12 snaps last week, obviously now probably will have an increased role as a slot corner, which is where he'd always played. Hopefully he can handle that. He just coming off injury himself with his foot. He was on a pitch count last week. But obviously now things got to come up just a little bit. But Trayvon will be missed, no question. But I think we still going to be dominant as we are right now. Because the thing that nobody didn't get hurt was from our pass rush. So as long as I got my pass rush, I'm good.
Yeah, I hate the Trayvon Diggs injury, man. I'm not by far not a Cowboys fan, but I hate to see a guy that's really coming into his own and becoming a really good player, And when I match up against Dallas, anybody, Commanders, anybody, Giants, I would like for you to have the whole team so we can see best versus best, who's better for that game. Unfortunately, we won't have that opportunity because of what happened, but hope he has, a full recovery. He's able to get back and be the player as good or better than he has been so far. So, want to make sure I put that out there because everybody wants to say all the time the Eagles fans are just so nasty and we'd be happy when people get hurt. That's not even true, man. It's not even true.
Oh, I saw a whole lot of them, no cool. It
Well,
wasn't you, but
not all of them. How about that? I was trying to slide them in there. I didn't know if maybe your mic wasn't gonna turn on real quick. I can get my
I saw all the NFC celebrate. Was some that celebrated, but that's neither here nor there. We don't even pay attention to people like that.
Yeah, that's not something you ever celebrate, man.
Never.
Definitely. So Tavis says facts. He was talking earlier about our conversation about how good Sam Howell's looking right now. And then we had Williams, Hugo hop in and say Commies versus Broncos was a fun game. Definitely was. A lot of scoring. And he says, and Washington is surprising me this year. I wonder if they can make any real noise. I think they may be able to do a little something.
I think so. They got a shot. They got a good shot this year.
And then Tavis Banks says Eric Bieniemy got Howell different. Antonio needs touches. I can't argue with either one of those points. And then let me try to see if I can do this right. What it do, big time? Cue ball. All right. And then Mr. Williams says, what's good at cooling everyone? Mr. Williams, what's going on, man? Appreciate you checking in as well. And then we have Eastside Harold who says, darn, Kareem Jackson still in the NFL. Then he says, different Jackson. Hey, it happens, man. It happens.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll move on here, guys. So unfortunately, we did have a Thursday night game this week that featured an NFC Beast member. Excuse me. We've alluded to it already, but just want to throw it out on the floor, let everybody, if there's anything you want to say about the specific game. We had the New York Giants, unfortunately, had to play the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara. Thursday night football, not a pretty thing to watch. Big Tom said it best earlier. If you had to play the 49ers or the Cowboys, especially early in the season, two of your first three games, you're probably going to be 1-2, and that's where we're seeing the Giants sitting right now. They fought, they just they got out fought, they got beat down, but they didn't give up, but they got knocked out.
They didn't have a chance.
Nah, they didn't.
You know, they couldn't get them off the field, to be honest with you. You know, and to be fair, you know, everybody's like love to say next man up and stuff like that, but it's a difference between Saquon Barkley and your next man.
Yeah,
I mean,
Matt Breida.
I mean, come on. I mean, you have to be fair, and you, at the same time, you could categorize and say, "Oh, you making excuses for him." No, I'm just stating the facts. There is a difference between Saquon Barkley and whoever is next on the depth chart behind him. There are some players that just cannot be replaced or duplicated. It's just a difference. Saquon is one of those guys. He was not there, and so the Giants really aren't. You can't. There's old saying, you can't run the race without the horses. You can have the same uniform on, but Saquon not there. So based off that, you knew what the 49ers were going to do. They were going to beat them up, as they did. And they did what they were supposed to. So I really ain't giving the 49ers no credit at all for doing what they were supposed to do. I was shocked that the Giants stayed with them. It looked like for almost 3 quarters, and then the Avalanche fell. And it goes back to, I don't know if that was Couch, or Sam. Somebody said it. Whoever brought up the New York Giants defensive line, because see, ain't none of them hurt. It ain't nothing. Look, Thibodeau is not hurt. Williams is not hurt. Lawrence is not hurt. And they ain't done nothing. They didn't do nothing against us. They didn't do nothing against the 49ers. Now, I mean, I didn't look at the Cardinal game, but the Cardinals scored. The Cardinals scored against them. I'm just saying this was, before the season kicked off, they were predicted to be one of the better defensive lines in the whole league, to be honest with you. They ain't playing up to that label at all. So, everybody want to point the offensive side and all that, but they were, if I'm not mistaken, weren't the Giants last year ranked in the top 10 or top 11 in total defense last year? They were that good last year. They was a top 10, top 12 defense in the league. They're not that this year, and they supposedly got better. So I got a problem with what they're producing defensively right now.
Yeah, I actually want to piggyback off that and completely agree. They finally produced sacks in this game, but it took them basically 3 games to get 2 sacks, and it took the NFC offensive line, or I mean the 49ers offensive line to do so. And it's insane to me that you've got all that talent on that line and you're somehow not getting pressure significantly enough to cause sacks. And that's just, it shouldn't be acceptable for Giants fans, quite honestly.
Yeah. There's nothing much else that can really be said. The Giants have some work to do. Wink's got to figure out how to use those guys correctly. I think the 2 rookie corners is really a struggle, right? And I mean, coming into a season and having 2 rookie guys be your starting corners, you're kind of putting yourself in a position where those first couple of games are going to be ugly. Because no matter how much your pass rush, how good your pass rush is, if you are able to train your quarterback to say, hey, you're playing this team, there's a good line, but if you can get that ball in the air going in the direction of the receiver pretty fast, we have a good chance to make plays. And I think that's something that's been happening to the Giants. It's also something that's been happening to the Eagles. Those teams that have those really good fronts, but you know that there may be struggles behind them, you just speed up your reads. You cut it down from 3 to 4 reads to 1 or 2 reads. First or second read, you got to get rid of it. And I think that's what we're seeing happen. And because the Giants have that weakness to start the season, it doesn't matter how good it is. It doesn't mean that those guys will not be great NFL players. But as of right now, their weakness and it's being exploited.
100%. I also wanted to throw out there, they didn't even attempt to run the ball really. 8 attempts by running backs on the day. I mean, you can't do that against that defensive line for the 49ers in that pass rush. You're asking for your quarterback to get killed all game long.
And let me add to that. Unless somebody think that Daniel Jones is Superman, I look at him as Clark Kent. Sorry. You got to know he ain't that guy. He's not that guy. So why? What you say? 8, Sam? 8 times?
Yep.
I mean, come on now. That's horrible game planning. And I will say this: I understand that if they were down big like they were to us, it took to the third quarter before the game finally got out of hand. They were in the game, and you only ran the ball 8 times. That's not smart game plan.
Definitely not at all. All right, so we got a couple of more comments here. So Shady Sports says he's still with Denver. Tavis Banks asked why isn't he signed? I think those kind of came in just at the same time. And then Eastside says Shady McCoy said Purdy's the best QB in the NFC. So, I'm glad he brought that up, right? My thing is, Purdy's played not against very good defenses. Let's say that, right? He's played against defenses that he should be able to get off against, right? This is the same thing as saying Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football through the first 3 weeks. Not thinking about it that, but through the first 3 weeks. We understand that doing some good things, looking good, but what happens when the challenges come? Like those defenses that are going to really disguise what they're doing, make you work, where you're going to have coordinators that are actually taking the time to put together a unique game plan to beat you, to make you do the things that you don't want to do, that you're not willing to, that you don't do very well. I don't think Purdy's faced that yet. I'm not here to say, oh, Brock Purdy isn't a good quarterback. I'm not here to say Brock Purdy is trash or anything like that. I'm just saying, let's hold off until we see him against some better defenses, until we see him against some teams there. He has to really go out and actually win the game. It's easy to throw. It's easy to sling the ball when there's not really a challenge. Let's see what the challenges come. Then we'll know how good he is or how bad he is.
Let's add to that, Cool.
Have at it.
But the way we don't want to add is you. I'm really saying the same thing, and it's gonna sound strange to my Cowboy fans here, but Brock Purdy is almost in the same class as Dak Prescott. And what I'm saying, even though I think Dak is better than he is, but Brock and Dak have almost the same quality, and that is you get to hide behind all the other talent on the team. You got Brock Purdy has Christian McCaffrey acting like this 10 years from those 6 years ago so far. Christian McCaffrey is looking like, long as he's getting 130, 140 yards a game and they're able to get 4 or 5 yards a pop, it's easy. He also has the defense as well. You get to hide behind that because they're not going to give him a lot of points. When he does throw the ball, his routes, even though he looked good Thursday, but I mean, who don't look good against rookie cornerbacks? He usually throws little run after the catch type routes for his guy. That's what Debo did. Debo made him look good with all the breaking tackles he was doing. It was just short passes. Kittle is a mismatch by himself. And so when you got all of this working, same thing with Dak. You got somewhat of a running game. You got a defense. The game is not dependent upon you. And for 17 weeks, I said the same thing about Jimmy Garoppolo when he was the quarterback at San Francisco. 17 weeks. But guess what? Maybe in about 3 or 4 of them weeks, the game is going to have to fall into their hands. And then we'll see what they really made of. And that go for my quarterback too.
That goes for every quarterback in the NFL, right?
Well, I'm saying there's some quarterbacks who are proven. You want the ball, the Patrick Mahomes, we already know. He gonna kill you. if he had to throw it the whole lot. It's a lot of quarterbacks like that. But for the quarterbacks that get all this credit, like, and they get to hide behind 22 to 26 attempts a game. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And those are the quarterbacks that sooner or later is going to have to happen where you're going to have to enter to that 35 to 38 times a game. And then we'll see what you really made out of.
I like it. Couch and Sam, any comments?
Yeah, and I think it's just early. That's one thing too. We gotta realize he hasn't even played a whole season yet. So it's kind of it's like putting the cart before the horse. Like, yes, granted, like you said, like Big Time said, because you know you could, if you have a day where you know we have to throw the ball 40 times, that's going to be different compared to half of that. So that's one thing too, where he doesn't have a situation like you say. He has a great running game where you got like Christian McCaffrey. If that opens up, then you do the same thing for Debo. So it's like he got great things, and also mentioned he got a great offensive line as well. So it's kind of one of those where San Francisco has had a knack, especially in the Kyle Shanahan era, of developing these type of quarterbacks to pretty much do the bare minimum in a sense. So I definitely think with him, I definitely want to see if there's ever going to be a situation where the reins will be taken off of him and he's going to like unleash freestyle and what have you. So the verdict is still out. Right. And they're not going to do that because like it's a proven form and a proven thing is a proven. But like in the event if Callum leave or, what have you, and he gets no quarterback, new coach, then that's where I'll be really intrigued. And like you said, if he becomes a guy, and it's not going to happen, but I want to see him throw it 40 times and see how his completion percentage is and will he turn the football over and what have you. But, it's too early to tell.
Let Christian McCaffrey get taken out of the game by a scoreboard, not by him being injured. Let them go down 14-17, nothing. Then you'll see. You do it, then I give him credit. But we ain't never had to see it because the 49ers that good.
Yeah, because they've always, and it's the phrase because they dominated from the jump. They established that tempo early, but there will be a time where that's going to be different.
Yep. Sam, anything?
Honestly, I think Brock Purdy gets a lot more hype than he really deserves. I mean, like Couch said, he's a system quarterback that found the perfect system for him. I mean, let's be quite honest. If the 49ers believed in him as much as they do now when they drafted him, would he have lasted to the last pick in the NFL draft? No, he would not have. There's a reason why he was picked where he was at. He was not good enough to be picked any higher at that time. He, again, fell into a great situation, which has made him look a lot more NFL ready than he truly was. When in reality, most of the games he's played, he's been primarily a game manager supported by amazing talent around him. So with that being said, I do think he's going to someday get that test that Couch said. I don't think it'll be this season unless it's absolutely necessary. But eventually, I think he'll step to that challenge. I just don't think he's at that point right now. Now, that does not mean he won't get to that point. It doesn't mean he's not the future of the franchise for the 49ers. I just don't think he's there right now is all.
Fair enough. I just want a quick shout out to BS3 Network. If you have Roku TV, you can go search for BS3 Network. You can check this and many other great shows out on the BS3 Network, as well as, their Facebook page, as well as YouTube. We'll, of course, talk about the wonderful places we can find us here at the end of the show. And a couple more things that we have on the agenda for this week, gentlemen. We have a comment here. So, Eastside Harold says CJ Stroud's top 5 in passing yards, FYI. Appreciate that, Eastside Harold. And if I didn't look at Big Time, I would have been able to pull it off. But I looked at Big Time. That was my mistake. All right, so we're going to hop into the previews for week 3. So we'll go in sort of chronological order when the games are played. So we'll start off with the Commanders versus the Bills. Couch coach, you know the floor is yours. Talk to us about this game.
All right. Well, this is pretty much, I think at this point, will be the Commander's first true test to see what the team is really all about. I mean, obviously, you wonder what Bills team will you face? Will you face the Jets? I mean, the team that they lost to in Monday Night Football against the Jets, where Josh Allen turned the ball over 3 times, interception wise. He did not fumble recovery. So he had 4 turnovers in the opening game against the Jets versus last week where he had a great game last week. I think I think he had like 3 touchdowns in that game. He fed both his two tight ends, Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid scored as well. So he kind of spread the ball over last week. I think my biggest concern, especially now, considering the fact if you look at like Dallas, that Dallas, but different game where offensively, they had our way with us in that first half, and I can definitely see where you look at their tight ends. I think could definitely play a huge part for their success, for Buffalo's success. I'm really leery about that. As far as I think that might be one of the biggest mismatch that we have in this game. I look at it from a defense standpoint. I think one of the keys definitely going to have a situation where the defense definitely going to have to get pressure to Josh Allen. I know last week we had 7 sacks against Russell Wilson. Same thing got to be here because you want to have him in a position where he's uncomfortable and it's going to force him to make bad plays. Because especially in this team, you're going to have to win that turnover battle, especially with this Buffalo Bills team, because even though they're a quick strike offense, you definitely want to get him pressure, get him rattled, get him kind of lose a little bit of his confidence. I think that's going to be kind of one of the biggest keys on our defensive part. I think offensively, and I think I forgot someone's post. And let me I look at the comments because it was one about so for Tavis Banks' point. I think the biggest key is Brian Robinson in this game. I think because you really want to establish the offensive tempo early. I think if you can establish that, especially, I think that's going to be really conducive, especially with those screenplays where it's going to make the Bills second guess. Like, okay, is this a run play? But then they see Sam Howell kind of throw a screen, and it can get some big yards and kind of keep the Buffalo Bills offense off the field. So it's one of those things where this is going to be a big test for this team. Definitely want to see their resolve. Definitely come from last week, obviously with that win, and just curious what Buffalo Bills team that we will face tomorrow.
I do that. All right. So, anybody have any thoughts they want to add to that?
I have an overwhelming feeling that this is the game where the vast majority of the public start looking at Washington as a legit contender. Because I think they're going to come into this game and they're going to smack Buffalo in the mouth, and they're going to take a victory this weekend, I believe.
I feel it. So we'll move on. We next have the Cowboys with their bunny game, and I say this for everybody, so not just the Cowboys, but their bunny game against the Arizona Cardinals. Big time.
Everybody there? Y'all can hear me? Okay. You can go on to the next game. Well, I mean, good Lord. I mean, killer. Buda Baker's not playing. He just got a linebacker that's out, starting linebacker. The guy Carlos Watkins out. They are tanking. They have a goal in mind. It looked like they got their eyes set on Caleb Williams. That's what I'm thinking. You know, I mean, Kyler Murray will probably not play at all this year. They're not, they're not trying. If you're looking for some problems that they can cause offensively, Hollywood Brown with his speed is still dangerous. Zach Ertz is still a sure-handed tight end. no doubt about it. Who always can get open. James Conner, it just all depend on what, if he get hot, he can cause some problems as well. And then of course Josh Dobbs is a running threat who is going to use his legs tomorrow, and using his legs always give most teams, but a defense is a problem. So there are some few things that we have to look out for, but I'm quite sure just as quick as I called them out, quite sure Dan Quinn has done even a better job in film study and getting these guys ready. Let's just face it, my defense is on a mission this year. So I'm quite sure they will be ready. Offensively, I still believe that we're trying to kick out the kinks. And when you're trying to do that, there's some calls for I'm not gonna say major mistakes because Dak hadn't really made them, but we're conservative right now. And that may come and bite you at some point in time. I don't think that's gonna happen this week. I think that we're gonna destroy the Cardinals just like we destroyed everybody else so far. I don't even think the game's gonna be close. I'm giving it about a 30 to maybe. I don't even think Arizona gonna score a touchdown, y'all. That's how bad I'm looking at it. I'm going 30-6, somewhere in that area there. I don't think it's gonna be no problem at all this week, and then we'll start getting ready for New England next week.
So we got a few comments here. So Tavis Banks says Kaiser White versus the run. He's their best defender. Probably what they have left. You're probably right. And Dennis Gardick versus Terrence Steele. And then I'm not even going to say this name. I'm just going to put it up here. We're going to say Victor D is another good dude too.
If Tavis is saying that, number one, his nickname in the podcast world is Keystone Cowboy. So he's a Cowboy fan just as I am. So what he is, Tavis is the one that if you want to know about a college football player, that's what he does. He is a college football guru, and he watches ton of film. So when he says these three names here, you might as well put a little stock into it because he's already done his homework. That's the kind of guy he is. That's my brother.
I'll tell you this: you don't have to tell me about Kaiser White because we had him last year in Philly, and he was a solid defender for us. But we don't value linebackers, so that's why he's gone. All right. And speaking of Philadelphia, we'll go ahead and get to the third game here, unless anybody else has any comments on the Dallas game. I mean, I don't think there's really much else to say. They're playing the Cardinals. You cannot convince me. If you were to go in the future and the Cardinals win the Super Bowl and you come back and be like, bruh, the Cardinals won the Super Bowl, I promise you, I still wouldn't believe you. This is the worst team in the NFL, and Dallas is not going to lose this game. So, yeah, we'll go ahead and move on to the Eagles versus Bucks. All right, so, Sam, we're going to start with you all the time. So, Sam, Eagles versus Bucks, what you got?
Well, I got to say, as an Eagles fan, this is a matchup that concerns me in terms of their defense versus our offense. Their outside linebackers, Joe Tryon and Shaq Barrett, might be two of the best equipped players that play outside linebacker to contain Jalen Hurts. That paired with their front three, with Vita Vea, PJ Hall, and I'm blanking the other end at the moment. I think it's Golston. But those three guys up front, as long as they can hold their own and fight off the double teams with, Levante David and White back there, this defense in the front seven in particular is extremely prepared to stop Hurts. And that is a big concern for me in particular. They're very good against the run as well. So if they can slow down Swift and contain Hurts, this could become a long day. I'm not saying we won't still beat them. Given their cornerbacks are not the greatest in the world, but it ultimately looks like a really good matchup on paper in terms of their front seven against our front five. So I'm definitely concerned about that. Their offense, on the other hand, does not concern me right now. It looks like Mike Evans has one foot out the door. He's not really prepared to play against a guy like Darius Slayer, James Bradbury, and really dominate like he used to. Godwin has done a whole lot of nothing so far this season, so I'm not scared about him either. And their rushing attack isn't much to speak home about. So outside of the fact that I think Baker Mayfield has played pretty well given what we all expected from him, I do think this ultimately ends up a win. But again, that defense really does concern me. They could definitely create some havoc in this game.
So Tavis does say good looking out, Bishop. And I tell you, man, when Big Time Lodge, when Big Time gives you props, I'm listening. Like I'm not familiar with his work, but if Big Time give you props, I'm listening. I'm gonna have to slide on over and check you out. But I'm opposite. I'm actually the opposite of you, Sam. I believe we always have to be concerned offensively because of that donut we have currently in the middle. Right now, safety and linebacker play is subpar. They are getting the ball caught all over them. So all you have to do, if you have any common sense, and you're a team facing the Philadelphia Eagles, is you put Mike Evans in a slot. Right, you move him around. You get him in positions where he's not matched up against one of those two top corners because they're not going to travel. They're going to play one side of the field each, and then they're going to leave the nickel corner or linebacker or safety to take care of who's in the slot. So you can get mismatches for Mike Evans. And if Whack and Cheese and primetime Kirk Cousins can get big days statistically against us, I think Baker Mayfield has the opportunity to as well. Rachaad White is going to be a non-factor, I believe, because we only allow 52 rushing yards a game. So I think our front seven, maybe even in the run game, is going to kind of do what they're supposed to do. But my big concern, like I said, is Evans, Godwin, Trey Palmer. You put in Raheem Jarrett, Devin Thompson. You can put in Cade Otton, Cole Keith, David Wells, whoever you want at slot wide receiver, at tight end. As long as you match them up with the middle of our defense, especially when we go zone, that's a concern so far. Hopefully Reed Blankenship coming back and some of the other guys that were injured will help fix that. But Mario Goodrich has to prove that he can hold up in a nickel corner as well. So that's another concern. So I'm more concerned about how many points they can put up. I think offensively, we have the tools. We have the line where we'll get some plays. And sarcastically speaking, Sam, we don't really have to worry about containing Jalen Hurts because they're just going to run him up the middle, right? They just want to run him in the middle of the defense so he can get hurt. So why are we worried about what they have on the outside? No, but seriously speaking, you do make some points about offense, but I think we have enough that we'll be able to get points, but they'll come at a premium. They won't just be we're marching up and down the field scoring touchdowns every drive. I think we'll have to settle for some field goals. We'll need to just get points on every drive. If we can get at least 3 points on every drive, or most drives, 85% of our drives, I think we have a strong chance of winning this game. We may not get the turnovers like we did the previous week, so we're going to have to actually match up and play against guys. Those are the things as of now that are concerning. Some guys that are new to playing the way that they're playing and a new coordinator, so other guys are also new to terminology, some of the different things. And again, we're missing our defensive quarterback. He's out at least 2 more weeks. So those things can make a difference. So I think defense is an area where we're going to struggle for the next few weeks. Hopefully, when we're talking about struggle, we're not talking about what we saw the first 2 games. Hopefully, we get some improvement there. But I think this is a game we ultimately win. But I think this is another game where all of these doubters of our quarterback, and a lot of them are within our fan base still, they've been lurking. They're back now that, we're not playing as well as we were last year. I think this is a game where they have ammunition, but ultimately we still get a win.
Yeah, I would completely agree. I don't expect this to end up being a loss. Like I said, I'm concerned about the matches on that front seven is all. But primarily, yeah, I'm pretty confident we come out of this with a victory.
Yeah. And we were going to discuss who we think is going to be our biggest matchup. right? We can quickly say that if you guys would like, it's cool. I'm gonna go. Actually, I'll let you go first, Sam, because I should say you're gonna be hitting first on the Eagles related topics.
Sounds good. I mean, if we're looking at individual matchups in our game in particular, I'm looking at
Well, I
Shaq
was
Barrett against
more saying like moving forward, like what's going to be
gotcha.
our biggest game moving forward. Yeah, after
Okay,
this
you'll
week,
have to
of
give me a
course.
minute to look at the schedule because honestly, I totally misinterpreted that question.
Are you good? You ready, couch?
Yeah, I mean, my answer's simple. Next week against Philly. I mean, to me that's litmus test for us because obviously we got the test against Buffalo. Regardless of what happened, it's not going to help or hurt us in the sense we want to see what's going on in this division because obviously you know you got to win some games in this division, especially a road being on the road in Philly, and that and then coupled with a short week after that. Yeah, it's Philly next week.
Big time. What's your what do you think is your biggest game coming up after this week?
Contrary to what a lot of people may think, what I'm getting ready to say is not week 5, it's week 4.
Okay.
Uh, and that is New England. It's not the San Francisco 49ers. The reason why I'm saying that is because I really do believe I still have the same question. How good is my run defense? And
Right.
I believe beyond a shadow of a doubt, week 4 against New England, we're going to find out because Stevenson and Ezekiel Elliott, they're going to try to get him the ball for the game. I believe that there's going to be a concerted effort to run, run, run. And then I'll find out. And that will just give us a kind of like an appetizer for what's going to happen against the 49ers in week 5. But that's really my only question mark as of now. A lot of people may say, well, what about the pass defense? Well, as long as the pass rush is there, the secondary is going to be there because you're going to have to get the ball out quick. Bland can pick it off. I'm not really just worried about that. I'm really worried about what my big boys in the middle. What are they like? Marjorie Smith over there laughing on the sideline. I ain't seen him play. He's on a pitch count. Hankins ain't really been in there a whole lot. Olsey has 3 sacks this year. He good for pass rushing, but can he stop the run? And this is the same guy that was on my team last year. So New England is going to test us in there, and I know he is. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
All right, so I'd have to say probably the Dallas game when we're in Dallas. That specifically in particular concerns me. Dallas obviously looks like a juggernaut this year. I'm kind of surprised they've come out and honestly dominated their opponents as well as they have so far. And honestly, they were always going to be our biggest threat in this division this year. And quite honestly, like I said, they're coming out looking a lot hotter out of the box than I expected this year. So definitely Dallas, and it comes at a key time given the fact that it's early December. So, I mean, we're going to be in that playoff push deciding who's going to be the top seed coming out of the East. And I think that's going to be a really important game.
I'm looking at October 22nd, 8:20 p.m. When the Miami Dolphins come to Philadelphia. The Miami Dolphins, in my opinion, are the best team in the AFC. If Tua is healthy, I think they're the best team in the AFC. Now he goes down, then we got some discussions and some thoughts to have. But I think that's going to be a big game because it's going to be, I think, our biggest challenge of the date. And I'm not overlooking the game the Couch Coach is talking about next week because that is an important game. But I think big, when I'm thinking about big, I'm thinking about, man, we got a chance to play at least arguably one of the top 3 teams in the AFC. I mean, I don't think there's an argument, but just for the sake of argument, I think that's the best team in the AFC. And how we match up against them, what we do against those receivers, how we handle the defense, how their offense handles our defense. Those are going to be some things to kind of look at and some things to take note of. And it's it's coming off of 2 rather easy games after the Commanders game that we should win no matter the outcome of the Commanders game. Because in between that Commanders game, we got the Rams and the Jets. We go to both of them, but the Rams could be a little bit of a problem if we're not careful, and we let those young guys that they have just kind of go crazy. I think it's a winnable game, of course. And in the Jets, we should beat them without unless they do something different at quarterback. So that was that. I did have one other quick thing that I wanted to talk about happened today, and that was Colorado took a pounding. The Colorado Buffaloes, Deion Sanders' college team. So I understand we're NFL show. We're talking about the NFC East primarily, but I want to get you guys' thoughts on the loss, the tackiness of the Oregon coach, players, fans, and just any thoughts you had, around the game, around what Coach Prime has been able to accomplish so far in Colorado.
I'm glad you brought this up because I've had a lot of thoughts on this. Obviously, again, I'm a CU Buffs fan for the last 2 decades plus. So I just want to throw out there, over the last 20 seasons, we've had three years where we had a winning season. Okay, so expectations were in the basement when we came into the season. I didn't care if we had Deion Sanders. It didn't matter who the coach was, and nobody expected us to come out of the box 3-0. These were the games that we ultimately expected them to lose. Oregon's a great team, great coach. They honestly were quite overmatched for our team, and I mean it showed. That's why we didn't even put up a touchdown. So it was unreal to watch the dismantling of Colorado after how good they've played. But at the end of the day, I never expected them to go undefeated. In fact, I would be happy with a 500 season at this point, given that it's Deion's first year. For us to have expectations for him to go out there and beat a team like Oregon, which has been established for many years, I don't think was fair expectations in the first place. And then as far as the speech for Oregon's coach, this is probably going to sound like an odd take come from me, but it's on point. It's on point. Deion Sanders is out there trying to create clickbait type articles and stuff like that by what he says, what he does, because all of that hype is going to pay off in the offseason. Where do kids want to go? They want to go to the schools that are being talked about. What team is being talked about more than CU right now? I don't have one off the top of my head. So this is only going to help Deion this offseason when he goes to continue building this team into the winner it can be with him here. And I honestly think we're going to end up with an amazing recruiting class this offseason because of what he's already done in Colorado. People are going to see the progress. They're going to realize that he's come a long way, and they're ultimately going to jump on board because they think that they can be that X factor to bring the team to the next level that it needs to go.
Couch or Big Time, whichever one of you guys want to.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Yeah, I think Colorado is by far the biggest story in college football. I mean, obviously, you just consider the fact Deion Sanders has injected so much positivity with Colorado, because you think of last year, the team was 1-11, and he's pretty much has made Colorado relevant. And today was not a surprise. I mean, and Deion told you that he don't have guys in the trenches. They went against the guys that's in the trenches that we might be talking about on Sundays on both ends, on the offensive and defensive lines. And it just shows you. And it just shows you, and I know that casuals will be like, oh, what happened? But no, football games are won in the trenches. You could definitely tell in this game it was indicative of the score. And I think with the coach of Oregon, it's gamemanship. It's at the end of the day, you have to create some type of material to get your guys focused. And like you said, when it comes to numbers, there are numbers, because he had people in the East Coast watching football at 2:00 in the morning last week. He generated the numbers, and they was generated by the wins. And that's saying that Deion Sanders don't care about wins, but that was just his angle to show them, hey, these guys, they're popular. They're the new kids on the block. They're the ones that generate numbers. We here to focus on the win. And like you said, they're a top 10 team in the country. You weren't going to pull out their feet on the road. I can understand maybe home might be a little bit different, but no, you on the road against a top 10 opponent that got guys that's going to the NFL in multiple positions.
Where do I start? Uh, uh, the value of Deion Sanders and the Colorado Buffaloes won't be measured just on the field. It's measured in revenue. Spring game of last year, of this year, was sold out. The previous year, it was about 100 people in the stands. I rest my case on that. The first home game, it's University of Colorado. There's an article out there. I put it on my page. Deion Sanders, well, I ain't gonna say it's Deion Sanders, but we all know. It made $18 million, man. First home game. The second home game, which was the overtime game against Colorado State. Has there ever been a school in history that had ESPN, College Game Day, Fox morning kickoff show, First Take, Pat McAfee show, all there at the same time? When you look at who came, you thought you was at the Staples Center with the Laker game. With the celebrities there. I mean, did Sam, you say you've been there. Have you seen celebrities there at Colorado like that before?
Never in my life.
Then that all points to the obvious. Deion Sanders. And to top it off, the second week that they made it, because they put the numbers out, University of Colorado made over $20 million, man. That's 2 home games, a revenue of over $38 million in 2 games. Ladies and gentlemen, what else? What are we talking about here? And as far as the game goes, Deion, is like Couch said, Deion said, he said it another way, and Deion said it earlier. So it really shouldn't have been a surprise about the day. Deion said he 7 to 8 dogs away. That's what he said. 7 to 8 dogs away. In another interview, he said he needed the trench guys, what Coach said. So it's obvious what he was talking about. He needs offensive line and defensive line. If you saw the game, they were just totally gutted on defense. I mean, every time they ran the ball, it was 8-9 yards plus. So on the field, that's what he's missing. He won't have this problem next year. It's going to happen rather quickly. The part that I want to talk about, and I know I done went on, but all these haters who have been quiet for the last 2 weeks, oh my goodness, they came out like a pack of roaches when the light turned on. They could not wait. As far as the coach goes for Oregon, he did nothing wrong. The only thing was that it was a camera what he told his team. He didn't say that in the press. He didn't say that, with a good reporter somewhere. He said that to his team. It worked. And I mean, they was already charged up. They know the world was watching them because of Colorado. Colorado this will be the third, what am I saying? Bam, bam. Well, they've been in prime time ever since the season started. They'll be again next week because they're going to get the same beat down that they got today, if you ask me, against USC next week. It's going to be the same thing. But look what Deion has done. Sam, you just said again, when has Colorado been in prime time for 3-4 weeks ago? I mean, in a row, other than maybe your Heisman years with Rashawn Salam and maybe Cordell Stewart back in the day. I mean, come on now. This dude is electrifying, and it's only going to get worse. So congratulations to the haters. They got something to really just go off about. I mean, they don't like them anyway. It is what it is. But what kills me cool is if someone, I'm 50. I'm 50 years old. So I saw all this. When has Deion not been what he is? Come on. He's always been
Never
electrifying. He's always been, if you want to call arrogant, he's always been like this. So this is This is nothing new to people like me because he was like this in Atlanta when he first went there. You know, he
Like this at
looked like
Florida State.
yeah, when he was like this in Florida State. I mean, this is nothing new. So, cheers to all you young people who only saw this as when he became a coach. A lot of us remember what this dude was back, like Cool said, even at Florida State. He was the same way his whole life. So this ain't nothing new. So if y'all don't like talking, look, I hate to see when he get them dogs like he talked about. You think he talking now? Oh my God, get ready. You ain't seen nothing yet. Sorry it took so long, but I think all that had to be said. Let me say it one more time, Cool. $18 million, University of Colorado. Second game, over 20. Trust me, the university president is very happy with Deion Sanders right now.
I wanted to throw one more thing out there that may not be common knowledge. I actually just learned this today when we were discussing the game at a family dinner, but they actually had to change the stadium restrictions on how they split the tickets because normally it used to be 60% students. They swapped it over to 60% outsiders, 40% students because of the demand for tickets. So that should tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, they have
helped.
to leave some tickets for students, but
it also helps, Sam, that the tickets are over $500 and students can't pay for that. Let's go.
Exactly.
That's Deion's effect.
Right. You know, for me, big time was going down the route I was going, right? The question to ask yourself is this team going to be better than last year? They won one game last year. They've won 3 games this year. So that tells you yes. So if you're Deion Sanders, it's year one. You've got to take so many guys and replace them. He only kept 10 scholarship players from last year. That's all that's left. So you had to bring in what you could, right? Transfer portal, freshman. You got lucky because you had 3 kids that were going to go with you no matter what. Right? So one's a quarterback, which you definitely needed, and the other 2 cornerbacks, and one of those is a cornerback and a wide receiver. So you miss him, and I'm not saying that he made the difference between them winning or losing, but I believe if you have Hunter, you probably give up 1 less touchdown at least, and you probably get at least 1 more touchdown. So I'm not saying it all, I'm not trying to say that Hunter is the difference between a win or a loss, but getting 1 touchdown and missing a field goal versus getting 2 touchdowns just feels a little better. When you get a double digit by your score, it just feels a little better, right? Even though you're losing. I think Colorado lost by more than I thought they would lose by. I picked them to win because I said I wanted to pick an upset, but I didn't expect them truthfully to win, right? Because you look at Oregon, and Oregon was poised for this game. They were ready. They clearly had the better talent, as everyone's talked about in the trenches. You build a team, offensive line, defensive line, and out. But if you can't get those guys, then you have to build all the other things and work on getting those guys. You think about this is going to be Coach Prime's first time this offseason actually having a full offseason to recruit, having everybody in place, not having to go find coaches, not have to go pull in a whole almost team of kids from other universities, transfer portals and freshmen and things of that nature. You're going to be able to go out, improving a program, go sit in a parent's kitchen, front room, whatever, and say, I will take care of your son. I will help your son be a better man. And if you get that meeting with Coach Prime, I guarantee you your kid is going to Colorado. Right? And that's clearly going to be about 8 to 10 offensive and defensive linemen, maybe about 5 or 6 on each side, right? Shadura's going to be back. Stats already told him you're not going pro. Shiloh's going to be back. Stats already told him you're not going pro. There's a reason for that. What he's saying publicly is because the team needs you. But what it really is he wants them to get that season. He wants them to stay as long as they can. Because if you do that, you put yourself in a better position when you go to the next level. Will Shedeur be an NFL quarterback? He absolutely will be. His mentor is Tom freaking Brady, okay? Understand that. He is going to go to the NFL, and he's going to have at least a solid career, I think, if put in the right position. But so many people have been waiting to hate on Deion, and they were coming at halftime. I was listening to the radio during halftime, and I mean, I was listening to 2 or 3 different stations, a couple of local stations where you can pick up ESPN affiliates, and I mean, they were going in. I'm like, oh, last week you're talking about how great they were, and then to get down and looking bad at halftime, all of a sudden, it's terrible, and this is what he deserves. And then you got people like Jason Whitlis running around talking about he's arrogant and he's going to come crashing down, and he's going to have to learn and all this. And my main thing is this: year one, Coach Prime's goal is get in here, get bowl eligible. I believe he's going to be able to get bowl eligible. As long as he does that, they can go to that bowl game and get beat like they did today. They're still there. 1 year removed from being 11 losses and 1 win. If that's not improvement, I don't know what is. And also a completely different angle. If Coach Prime comes in this year and goes 12-0 and wins the national championship, what can he do to improve that in year 2? If he comes in and wins 6-7 games, bowl eligible, goes out, has a decent showing, he's got something to what? Grow. He's got something to develop. He's got room to still improve. Cerebral. People don't give him credit for thinking. And he knew this. This wasn't anything he had to go and say, oh, I'm not going to bring in this kid. I'm not going to bring in that kid. He knew what he had before the season started. And he knew he could win some games that people didn't give him credit for. And he knew he was going to lose some games. He wasn't sitting up there in that press conference, man. He was giving props to Oregon. He was saying how they beat us. We had some poor performances. We had some kids that did some great things. We're going to talk about the great things as well as the things that we need to improve. Is he going to win next week? Probably not. Will he look better? I believe they will look better. And that's what you want. You want to compete. They didn't really compete today because I think they got punched in the mouth for the first time, and a lot of these kids weren't prepared for it. But that's okay. It's a learning experience for Coach Prime and for these kids. They're going to come out stronger. This Colorado team is still going to win what I said, which is about somewhere between 6 and 8 games this year. They're going to be bowl eligible, and this hype train is not going to die just because there was a loss. They were the lower ranked team. They lost to a top 10 team. There's no surprise in that. So what are we talking about? Like Big Tom said, what are we talking about? We're hating on somebody we've been wanting to hate on for years, and we finally get a slice of the opportunity. But a lot of you are going to still eat those words. And when you do, Coach Ryan will have the receipts.
Yeah. I got 2 points for it. And like you said, and then next year, they're going to the Big 12. So the competition is going to be a way lot easier than what they're dealing with now in the Pac-12. And then, like you said, and like people like Jason Whitlock and all them, they're the same age. I can understand if a 25-year-old say, oh, he's arrogant. You guys are the same age. He was doing this since 1985 when he was at Florida State. He created a name when he was a freshman in Florida State almost 40 years ago. So it's one of those things and I've even heard somebody say, well, you watch him on the game, you watch him at the game, and then he's got commercials. Duh, that happened in the 90s. That happened in the 2000s. Like, this dude, this isn't nothing new to him. This is not new. That's why I never understand how people. And it kills me because people always say, well, you change, you're different. But then somebody stays the same and they're true to themselves, we hate. But I digress.
That's a great point, Couch. I wanted to go back to something Cool said a while ago about the Eagles, actually. And it's something that I think carries over to Coach Prime. Is he's very much a coach that wants your best shot. So he knew before the season ever began, I'm going to run my mouth. I'm going to talk all my shit. And then I am 100% going to get the best shot from every team that we face all season long. And we're going to get punched in the mouth at some point. And he knew this was coming. So, I mean, again, that's why he wasn't upset. And that's also why I would expect that we didn't hear a whole lot of talk about Oregon before this weekend. He wasn't trying to give them any bulletin board material prior to this game. All we heard about all week long was that Henry Blackburn hit on Travis Hunter, and which, by the way, he handled with great professionalism. Him and Travis Hunter both. But I didn't hear any talk about Oregon other than we're prepared for it. So, I mean, for him to come out and kind of act that way, I think that's an indication of what he was expecting this week.
When you're 1-11 and you're a marketing genius like Deion Sanders is, he showed you that when he got drafted. He told the whole world for years that he made up a alias, which was called Prime Time, and that really was not him. He told everybody then that he had to do that because they were not paying cornerbacks millions of dollars. He was the first. And it was because he wore all the gold chains. It was because at Florida State, he showed up at the bowl game in a limousine instead of and everybody else rode the bus. This dude is a marketing genius. He knows, as Sam just said, when you're 1-11, you're not going to get the coverage that you whatever. I ain't gonna say you rightly deserve. You're not gonna get it. He skipped a few hurdles that this is why a lot of coaches can't stand him, because he skipped the hurdles that they had to fight for. And Deion just bypassed that. He skipped the hurdles and doing things totally different. Most teams had to build the program, get you some 3-4-star guys 1 year. Hopefully you can sneak 1 5-star. Deion said, I'm not even trying to do that. I'm going to the transfer portal. I'm getting everybody out of there. I'm coming. I'm going to do the same thing next year. And you may laugh now. You're going to go from a 6-17 win probably to a double-digit team win next year. And they're going to be in the hunt. It's really just as simple. And that's what the reason why now you got the coaches talking like that. This dude took all the pressure off the kids, as crazy as it may sound, because he had to get the foundation of like, hey, look at us. We're Colorado. Remember us. What does that produce? He's been in prime time ever since he got there. The Colorado Buffaloes have been on prime time TV ever since he got there. I don't know what the folks are talking about. It's just brilliant marketing, man. It's brilliant. That's all I got to say. Brilliant.
Yep. And when you're watching them and you laughing because he's losing, you're still watching them. And the more you watch him, the more you're going to see him.
Which means he's winning.
He's still winning. Yeah. Even if they lose, he's winning. Because and like Coach has always been trying to do, Coach Prime has been doing this since the beginning. He's been taking like Big Time said, he's been taking all the pressure. You're not talking about the kids. You're talking about him. One guy was ranting. He was talking about, you didn't even talk about the kids till Monday, blah, blah, blah. You know why he didn't talk about the kids till Monday? Because he wanted to make sure the story was about him. He wanted to make sure that you were focusing on him, good or bad. They can go out there and do whatever they want, free as a bird. Because if they play bad, we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about their coach. If they play good, we're not going to talk about them and boost their ego. We're going to talk about how the coach is arrogant. Everything surrounded on the media attack is about the coach, not the players.
To prove your point, Cole, and I know we're going over time, the ticker on ESPN said this: the Oregon defeats Deion Sanders, number 19 Colorado. And Deion in his press conference say they doing that to beat me. The kids are just free. So a lot of people thinking they did beat Deion today. So it is what it. Deion said, I ain't playing no more. He said, I got a gold jacket, which he does. You'll call it arrogance. He said, if I'd been out there, it'd been total dominance. That's what he said today. So
Deion got 8 toes. He ain't out there playing for nobody no more. You know what I'm saying?
Come on.
Too soon. Too soon,
man. Too soon. Hey, man. Great show, guys. Love when we can get it, just talk about a sports which we would have been able to incorporate Wise into this as well, man. But I get it. Sometimes other things happen. So we'll go around here. We'll start with you, Sam. We'll just go around. Everybody, just let everybody know where they can find you, man. Then we're going to get up out of here for the night.
Absolutely. So you can check us out on the Shady Sports Network YouTube channel, where you can see this show every Saturday. We got basically daily content coming out, trying to get to the point where it's almost 24/7 for you. Also, check us out on the website. I've been doing weekly previews about the Denver Broncos, which I know is not NFC East team, but trying to work on getting media credentials for the Broncos. So you gotta do a little bit more coverage there. But definitely check out ShadySportsNetwork.com. And then, again, check us out here every Saturday. And make sure you subscribe to every one of these channels. because these guys make great content, and unfortunately, not all of it comes out on my channel as well.
I guess I'll go. It's simple. Go to Facebook, as you can see right above me, the Big Time Show. You can just find me there on Facebook, follow it, like it, subscribe. Also to the YouTube channel, again, the Big Time Show. Just simply follow it and subscribe. I got plenty of other places, but don't worry about that. If you get these two, I'll let you in on everything else. I'm on all your digital podcast stuff, all that. But just go to the main, to the Big Time Show, either Facebook or YouTube. You can follow me there.
All right. So pretty much my podcast, Couch Coach Live, you check that out every Wednesday, 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Pretty much social media, Facebook, Twitter, X, Couch Coach Live. And then also check out my Washington Commander-centric podcast, Commanders in the Chat, every Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That's Commanders ITC on social media.
So a couple of places really would like some assistance from you guys, man. If you're watching, if you see the replay, you see us on BS3 TV, wherever you see it at. Right here below me, go to youtube.com, type in @Eagles Elite Podcast. Really would appreciate likes, follows, and definitely subs. Also, youtube.com/@Play Sports Talk. @Real Play Callers. That would be very helpful as well. We talk all things basketball and football. We do mix in some, other things, some professional wrestling every once in a while. Some other things we'll, shoot at you as well. We can go directly to our site, playcallersportstalk.com/live. And also take you to YouTube, where you can see our good information at, man. We've got something pretty much every day but Sunday on there, right? And I am doing this at the behest of my co-host. One, Mr. Sam Shady, has not graced us with his presence yet. Wednesday night, 8:30 p.m. EDT for Eagles Elite Podcast. Just check out everybody here. Seriously, though, a lot of great content, man. Even if you're not a fan of a specific team, you can learn a lot about a team by watching content creators who care about that team. Couch Coach, that man cares about the Commanders, right? He's going to give you the real information. You're going to be able to listen to that and understand what the Commanders are and how they work. Big Time, I don't even think I need to tell you this, but Big Time, this man has me watching Cowboys content. That's all I got to say to y'all, right? Eagles Elite, man, we all about the Eagles. Sam does this thing, covers so many different leagues that is crazy. Leagues I hadn't even heard of before. So definitely I would encourage, man, checking out his content. It's great, guys. Putting out great content, just trying to, hit things from different angles, give you something that you don't see everywhere else every day. Content can sometimes be redundant because you're hearing the same thing over and over. You're just hearing it a different way. But then sometimes you come across people that's really giving you something different. These guys give me something different, man. I'll give you something different. Celebrate us. Give us the flowers while we're here. All right. And with that being said, man, we're going to end the show for the week. Appreciate you guys. We'll be back next week with another banging episode. NFC Beast. And we out.